Hi class, I wanted to provide an audio for the effect essay, which is your first essay for the class. This video does not take the place of the prompt. However, I just thought that maybe hearing about it and just an audio and just further discussion might help you understand the essay a little bit better. I do suggest that you either pull up the prompt on your computer or maybe have a printout in front of you just so you can take notes, highlight, whatever it is that will help you. You are going to write an effect essay, not a cause and effect essay. There is a difference there. So a cause is a reason for something to occur. An effect is something that results from an event or a condition. So you're going to focus on the effects here. Remember, this is a formal essay. This is not something that is conversational. You're not having writing a creative writing assignment. So keep everything very formal. And you're going to list the effects COVID-19 has had or will continue to have on something or someone. It could be a specific group of people, a specific condition, or a specific aspect of life. I did provide you with examples on your prompt. You will see quite a few there. You do not have to write on one of those bullet points that I provided. However, you can if you'd like to. After you choose a topic, you will make 3 to 4 points, which will be effects. And each effect should be distinct. So they shouldn't be similar, repetitive, or overly obvious. What do I mean by that is each body paragraph should sort of tell me a different effect for that particular group of people or aspect of life. So let's just take an example. We'll look at an example in the next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through these examples a little bit. So you'll notice that a lot of them have sort of a broad term, so like economy, for example, and then it tells you to focus more. So I want you to, so if you wanted to talk about the economy, I want you to focus more, and I give you some examples, so maybe just small businesses, or you can do restaurants, or so focus, so everybody's paper will be a little bit different. I'm going to talk you through one. I'm just going to pick one, but please don't choose this one for your topic since I do want everybody's to use their own thoughts and ideas. But let's just do, you can list 3 to 4 effects COVID-19 has had on people's diets. Okay, so maybe one effect would be that people started to cook more at home and improved your diet in that way. Because remember, your effects do not have to be negative, okay? So everything doesn't have to be negative. Now, here, if we want to say that people their diets were improved because they started eating at home a little bit more, we want this effect to be sort of a positive one. So this body paragraph would be all about how it affected people eating at home more, and maybe they ate more vegetables, or maybe they could choose the ingredients that went into their dishes a little bit more than restaurants allow you to do that, right? So that's just one idea. So your next effect, that's just one effect. Remember, you have to have 3 to 4. Your next effect would be different than eating at home, right? Now, the next one could be negative, choosing on diets. Maybe there was a shortage of certain foods in the beginning, and that was a negative. So of course you'll brainstorm more and you'll come up with better ideas. But that's just kind of an overview, an idea of how to start setting up your ideas. Remember, 3 to 4 effects. If you're someone who has trouble meeting page limits, you might want to start it with 4 effects. That way you have 4 body paragraphs. It gives you more to work with. If you want to start with 3 and maybe add that 4th one later, that's okay too. But I think maybe just kind of starting with more is better. That way you can always cut later. And when you're, writing right before the due date, which I hope nobody does, you're not having to kind of just come up with another idea, if that makes sense. But of course, everyone has their own ways of writing. So the length of this paper is going to be 3 typed double-spaced pages. That's the minimum. So not 2.5 pages. You got to go all the way down the third page, okay? No more than 4, please. Fill up that third page. So that's straightforward, right? So the format is MLA format. With this paper, you really just have to worry about page setup. So that means your headings, your title, the spacing, font, things like that. So MLA is fairly easy for this first paper. It's going to be much more difficult for the second paper. So take advantage of this first paper. Try to do well on it because the second and the third are going to be much more difficult with the MLA format. You're going to have a works cited page, things like that. Okay? So MEAL is a type of format for your body paragraphs. M stands for main idea, that's your topic sentence. E will be examples or evidence. A is analysis, and L is link. We're going to go into this on Blackboard if we haven't already, but there's a special way to set up your organization for your body paragraphs that makes it it makes it easier to understand. And then last but not least is point of view. This is something that I hope that you get early because it's something that we're going to be using throughout the entire class. So for a point of view, you're going to be writing in third person point of view. So no first person, which you would use words like I, us, me. You want to keep yourself out of this paper. It's more formal if you write from a third person perspective. Absolutely no second person at all, which is using the word you or your or yourself. That's sort of magazine writing, creative writing, things like that. So again, we're talking about formality here. And then the third person point of view, you'll use, names. You can use he or she or the student or, if you're talking about diet, talk about nutritionists, those kind of words. So try to work on that if you are not used to writing a third person point of view, because you're pretty much gonna stick with third person with English 111, but also with 112 and beyond in academic writing anyway. So for this paper, remember I was saying about the MLA format, take advantage that you're not going to do any research for this paper. Sometimes that's hard because some people's first instinct is to Google, what's already out there. I really would suggest refraining from doing that because sometimes when you do that, you maybe not purposely, but it ends up in your paper, these ideas. And Safe Assign does catch, even if you reword items from online or from other papers or other student papers, even your own papers, you can't use like past. It's called self-plagiarism. So please just refrain from using anything that's out there already. Try to think of this on your own, and do not research. Do not Google anything. Safe Assign, if you're not familiar with it, it's something on Blackboard that it's going to scan your paper, and it'll give a percentage of anything that's found that was elsewhere. So this first paper, since there's no research, you want to get pretty close to 0%. Your next paper, there's going to be research. You're going to have in-text citations, works cited page. It's going to be a different ball game there. So again, take advantage of not researching for this paper because you're going to have plenty to do the next two, okay? With that being said, since there is no research for this paper, that means you cannot use any sort of statistics or anything like that. You're just strictly using your experience since you lived through COVID. So use your experience, but remember, again, in third person point of view. I already touched on this question a little bit, but since it's mentioned on your prompt, I wanted to just touch again, just really quickly. But I do say that each body paragraph should be distinct. So again, you want your effects to discuss different points or different effects of whatever your topic is. Don't say the same thing. So I have a example here. So if you are writing the effects on education for elementary school students, an overly obvious effect might be that students were out of school for months. We all know this. This is a sort of a surface level effect. I want you to try to delve a little deeper. Instead, what happened as a result of students being out of school for months, and use that for your effect. Try to give yourself more meat, because I always have students who say I can't meet the length requirement, and a lot of times it's because they give these surface level effects or ideas, and it doesn't give you much to work with. If after you say that you're out of school for a couple months, there's not much really where to go. We already know that part. So give yourself something to talk about. So it's just some tips here. Just and again, I'm going to give you there's going to be a document that talks about things that you'll learn in 111, and I do suggest you look over that. There's quite a few bullet points. So I would, if it were me, I would print it out and sort of just go down the checklist of things you already know, and maybe highlight the things you don't know. I do think that the majority of students will find some things that they don't know, and a lot of it will be research. Pertaining to research. But here are just some quick ones here. So avoid informal language slang or vague words like huge or things. A lot of times, in speech, we say things very conversationally, and that's okay. But remember, we want to keep this more formal, the essay. Another one is don't talk to the reader. Don't say, as I already mentioned earlier in the text, or just as Nike says, just do it. And then MLA requires you to write most numbers out and contractions. So if you're fuzzy on the most numbers, usually you would write out 1 through 100. And then after that, you can use the actual numeric segments or units. But there's percentages and things like that could be okay. If you're not sure and you want to check with me, send me an email. That's fine, because it is sort of a vague MLA, and a lot of teachers have different rules on that. So I don't mind an email. Contractions is like don't. You'd write do not instead. Then on the second page, you'll see an organization, just sort of a help. There's a paragraph there about introduction, and you'll start with your hook, which will kind of draw the reader in. It gives you some suggestions there, so I'll let you read that on your own. And you'll end with a thesis. Their thesis statement should be one sentence and list 3 to 4 distinct effects. Keep that order that you list your effects. So the first, whatever you mentioned first in the thesis should be your first body paragraph, and so on. Then it goes on about the body paragraphs, which will be a minimum of 3. You might have 4, and you'll use meal format on these paragraphs, which we discussed earlier. And then the conclusion, which is 1 paragraph, you'll end with that. You want to restate your thesis. You don't want to repeat it. And you don't want to be redundant. Sometimes people go over what they've already mentioned in the entire essay. That's not necessarily what the conclusion is for. You can kind of offer something new if you'd like. That's still relevant, of course. You can also predict if these effects will continue, get better, become worse, that sort of thing. But remember, remain in third-person point of view. There's a few other items on the prompt that I just want you to take a look at. There's something about repeating students if this is not your first time with 111 or with me as an instructor. And there's also a rubric, which I'll let you look at your own pace. But please let me know if you have any questions about this essay. Email me as soon as you can, and I hope you can get started soon.